I'm here to talk to you about short story writer Donald Barthelme. He's an acclaimed short story writer who has timed credits to either be not of usual nature or to be genius, extremely modern and individualistic. Many of his stories typically can only be like 3 pages long, and some of his characters are only a name and then a few short lines. However, all of them always have a very in-depth representation, and I'm going to go through 5 of those today. And by the end of this video, hopefully you'll be able to make an opinion of your own on Donald Barthelme. A City of Churches was written in 1973 and is about a small isolated town named Prester. The story begins with the town real estate agent, Mr. Phillips, showing the town around to a woman named Cecilia, who is interested in starting up a car rental business. As Mr. Phillips states it, everyone here takes a great interest in church matters. All the buildings in Prester are various buildings of different religions. The people rarely leave, and again, as Mr. Phillips tells Cecilia, "We are like other towns, except that we are perfect." Nearing the end of the story, Cecilia begins to show disinterest in the town and wishes to leave. "I'll dream things you won't like," Cecilia tells him. "I'll dream the life you're most afraid of." At this point, the reader can make the parallel between the town of Prester to a cult. For after Mr. Phillips hears this from Cecilia, he grabs her arm and says, "You are ours. There is nothing you can do." The ideas of Prester possessing perfection, their citizens never leaving, and their aggressive attachment towards newcomers, as seen through Cecilia, Barthelme is showing how controlling religion can be in one's life. Its possessiveness, if you will, in someone's life is extremely similar to that of a cult. So the next story is called A Man, and it's about a fireman who wakes up and his left hand is missing. And he starts to realize, obviously, that he can't do everything that he was able to before with both his hands. Unless they're ambidextrous, most people are dominant with only one hand. As you can clearly see, I am dominant with my right hand. Because when I try to do anything with my left, I can't even control what's going on. The man's left hand represents all that he overlooked in life. It was only when he lost his hand that he started to have a very, bad, low opinion and outlook on life. As stated near the end of A Man, to be honest, he did not want to be a better man. All he wanted was to drink and listen to music. He did not love anybody. No one loved him. We are all replaceable parts, like a bashed-in fender of a Maverick. His left hand was a replaceable part of an organism that was itself replaceable. So basically that saying that you never fully appreciate something until it's gone, the left hand represents that. For me, right now, I laugh at my left hand's abilities because I'm so dominant with my right. But if I didn't have that, and if any of us didn't have our lesser dominant hand, daily functions would be impossible to do. Hey Siri, what's the definition of mentality?
From 2 definitions of mentality, the first one is a habitual or characteristic mental attitude that determines how you will interpret and respond to situations.
Thanks, British Siri. Okay, so in the next Barthelme story, The Explanation, written in 1970, Barthelme uses a question and answer session to demonstrate those 2 mentalities. The questioner demonstrates use of the left side of the brain, which is much more logical and analysis thinking, where the answerer responds to those rigid and blatant questions with much more emotion and creativity. At one point in the story, A states, "You seem emotionless." Q responds, "That's not true." A questions, "To what do your emotions adhere, if I can put it that way?" At this point in the story, this conversation blatantly ends. This is because A has asked Q a personal question about his emotions. There is no response from Q because of his logical thinking and lack of emotional mentality. The shortest story I read, The Opening, spans over just 3 pages. It merely talks about a cast of actors about to put on a production. We see them go to the costume department, see the costumes they're going to be wearing, and they talk about the music that the audience will be hearing as they walk in opening night. Mainly, the playwright's actions and feelings are highlighted. The playwright loves the theater when it is empty. When it has people in it, he does not love it as much. The audience is a danger to his play. The audience's reaction validates the writing. The audience represents judgment. Barthelme makes this comparison and parallel between audience and society, and how they are the ones to judge an individual's life. Whether you want to admit it or not, you have all felt pressured, insecure, or embarrassed. And why is that? Because there's been an audience around you. People have surrounded you to judge you. And sadly, that's life. Known to be one of Barthelme's stories to evoke pity and sadness, The Apology of 1978 shows the internal dialogue of a woman sitting under a window, trying to convince herself that if she apologizes enough, her wronged husband William will come back. One critic states that through the work of The Apology, Barthelme, quote, moved more obviously to a jazz idiom, showing how an overwilling apologizer can drive away an offended suitor with a riff-like assemblage of overstated regrets. The use of the word jazz in this one critic's statement is intriguing. Jazz is often long, dramatic, bluesy, and repetitive, just like apologies and the overanalyzing and agonizing over relationships. The girl in Barthelme's story overindulges herself in this relationship, losing her mind almost, as seen in her repetitive thoughts. I was unforgivable. I don't disagree. He'll never come back. Say you're sorry. Despite their short length, Barthelme's stories hold great symbolism, metaphors, and themes. Extreme control of religion. Lack of appreciation for human life. People's use of different mentalities. Societal judgment. Overindulgence in relationships. Donald Barthelme is not one of the most famous American short story writers. However, the intense messages his writings portray still hold relevance to today in the 21st century, making him an individualistic and timeless author of his age.